Hi, my name is Jose Bohorquez. I'm president of CyberMed, and I want to tell you how we can secure your medical device so it's compliant with FDA's regulations and guidances. If your medical device has software, FDA requires that you submit 12 attachments for cybersecurity. Doesn't matter whether your device connects to the cloud, connects to a network, is wireless. If it has software, you have to submit those 12 documents. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. So if you look at the 2023 Cybersecurity and Medical Devices Guidance document, and you turn to page 6, which is where the scope section is, what they tell you is the guidance is not limited to devices that are network enabled or contain other connected capabilities. If you look up, what it says is this guidance document is applicable to devices with cybersecurity considerations, including but not limited to devices that have a device software function or that contain software, including firmware or programmable logic. So FDA is saying if your device has software, this applies. And I'll show you one more piece of evidence of that, because sometimes people are surprised by that. If you look at the eSTAR form, so this is the form that you have to use to submit a 510K to the FDA since 2023. And you go to the 4th page, you'll see there's this question. Does the device use software or firmware? That's all it's asking. If you select no here, what you'll find is that in the firmware section, it's blank. You don't have to submit anything for software, firmware, or cybersecurity. But if we go back and you select yes, okay, now there's either 9 or 10 documents for software, and that has to do with the level of risk, and then there's a dozen attachments for cybersecurity. So things like threat modeling, risk assessment, etc. In fact, here I've summarized those documents for you here. So there's 12 attachments: your threat model, your cybersecurity controls, your safety and security assessment of vulnerabilities, your cybersecurity management plan, cybersecurity testing, cybersecurity metrics, labeling, software bill of materials, software level of support, etc. So there's 12 attachments. Now, those 12 attachments should be coming out of a secure product development framework that you've implemented. What that looks like is as follows. You want to be following a process as you develop your medical device and your software to achieve security. We created a little diagram that you might find helpful. Essentially, you start with design input. So what are the requirements of the software? And this isn't strictly security, it's just what does the software need to do? And from that, you would create your software architecture. But now what you also have to do is create architecture with security views. So that's the new requirement from FDA. You use those security views to then generate a threat model for your software, for your device. Then from that, you perform risk estimation and evaluation. And then depending on the vulnerabilities and threats that you detect, you may have to implement specific controls to reduce that risk of cybersecurity types of harms or problems that could happen with your device. Now, once you implement those controls, you may have to re-architect your software. So you would go through that cycle again until you determine that the risk is low enough. At that point, we recommend creating a draft of your security management plan, and then you start the implementation phase. So you develop the software, you might be pulling in third-party libraries or off-the-shelf software, and what you want to do is evaluate it to see if there's any vulnerabilities associated with those third-party or external libraries. You do that by generating an SBOM, or you can do it ahead of time, but once you're done, you can also generate a full software bill of materials for your software and analyze it to evaluate if there's any vulnerabilities. If there are vulnerabilities, to understand how critical they might be and what impact they can have on your software. And if you've brought in a library that's just not secure, you may have to replace it. That's why you want to start this process early. You don't want to get to the end of your development, you've performed verification and validation, then you realize there's a vulnerability with a library. You have to go back, modify your software, potentially redo testing. It can be very costly in terms of both timeline and budget. So you want to avoid that. Once you've completed that phase, you feel like your software is in a good place from an SBOM analysis standpoint, you don't want to perform cybersecurity testing. That's primarily fuzz and penetration testing of your device. And again, if you've got failures there, you may have to go back, change your architecture, change your software. And once you finish all of your cybersecurity testing, now you're ready to go. You'll do a final analysis of your SBOM if anything has changed, make sure that everything looks good. If there are any residual threats or vulnerabilities, which usually there are, you would look at that to see what impact it'll have on your system. And so long as it's acceptable, that's okay. And now once you launch the product, you also have some responsibilities post-launch. So you need to continuously monitor your software bill of materials to make sure that there's no new vulnerabilities that are reported. And you need to monitor any incoming complaints. If somebody finds a way to hack into your system, for example, you would want to make sure that you look at those security incidents, evaluate what impact they can have on your system, make those modifications, and then patch or update the software, which is one of those new requirements too, that your device should be patchable and updatable either in the field or some other mechanism. So that's the overall process. I know there's a lot here. If you have questions, please reach out. We'd be happy to help you. At CyberMed, that's what we specialize in. We help companies put together all of their documentation. We can perform all of the testing for you. Our goal is to make this as easy as possible for you so that your team can focus on developing the excellent software with those features that are going to help doctors and patients. Our job is to help you make sure that your system is secure, to take the load from you of putting together all of that documentation and doing all of that testing, which, by the way, FDA wants to have an independent test party do the penetration testing. So it's essentially a requirement, and we can help you with all of that. So just one last thing, if you want to see a 1-hour webinar that we recorded where we go into a lot more detail, just click on the link below. That'll allow you to get a link to the full webinar. And also, we've got a quick start guide that you can download. So that link will be above. And if you click that, we'll email you. It's about a 22-page quick start guide document that, again, goes into more detail.